go. We're on now. Casper.
Here.
Dean Shinbrot. Evans. Frickman. Garcia. Gilly.
Here.
Hubbard.
Here.
Oop, thought you left. Kent. Longino. Laughlin. Marr. Marley. Massett. McCabe. McDermott. Merritt. Nault. Nugent. Aubry. Parker. Pasqualini. Powers. Quinn. Sleeker Hersant. Steinford. Irma Streeter. Jim Streeter. Swindell. Wagner. Watrous. Wells. Williams. Wilson. And Newsom, 29.
Here. All right, we have 29 members. Declare a quorum. The Democrat floor leader has requested a 15-minute caucus, so we are in recess for 15 minutes. We do count 1024, public safety, on page 115 of your big budget book. Can I read your meeting minutes?
Yeah. Minutes of the public safety meeting, April 19th, 2017. The meeting was called to order by Chairman McDermott at 6:35 p.m. Present were Representatives Adams, Burgos, Hubbard, Parker, Wilson, and McDermott. Absent were Representatives Burrill, Garcia, Kent, Pasqualini, and Streeter. A quorum was present, and at count 1024, Groton Town Police was the first item of business. Town Chief L.J. Fasaro and Deputy Chief Paul Gately were in attendance. The Chief showed us a copy of his first annual report detailing much of the department's activities. It was very well received. He mentioned that we have some drug and human trafficking activity in Groton, which we were unaware of, and that we're collaborating with surrounding towns successfully to deal with those problems. Groton Town has provided the bulk of experience working in this area. He introduced our new deputy chief, who has had a distinguished background with the state police. He resides in Stonington. That's Paul Gately. Chairman McDermott said that he had comments from town officers who were complimentary about the chief and pleased with the department morale and the direction the department has taken. The chairman mentioned that the town police budget is easily our second biggest cost center after education at approximately $10 million. The benefits package of $3,200,000 is not included in the operations budget. It can be found on page 97 in a separate section. The chairman asked, who does the negotiating for this? It turns out it's the Human Resources Director and the town attorney. Representative Wilson asked whether officers were trained in life-saving techniques and drug overdoses. All officers are trained. Chairman McDermott asked how the chief felt about current crime levels, noting violent and property crime are generally trending down here and across the country. Chief Fasaro felt that aggressive patrol has been helpful, but that traffic accidents are up. Representative Parker asked about training and behavior of officers during traffic stops, having heard some circumstances of stops that concerned her. Everyone should get a card according to protocol, detailing a way to communicate any problem during encounters with police. Representative Adams asked if that was a relatively new thing, and we were informed that it is. The chief also mentioned that he wants officers out and interacting with the public whenever possible. Representative Wilson asked what the town council number means with regard to staffing, and the chief said that they would not be able to fill 3 sworn officer positions and 1 civilian position, but that he's trying to work with people and plan better so as to mitigate that impact. A motion was made by Chairman McDermott for $6,688,800 $864, which was seconded by Representative Adams. A vote in the affirmative was unanimous. And I'll go on to Groton Ambulance. I'll read all of these.
Everything for that,
Okay.
for that meeting.
Groton Ambulance, account 10543 was considered next. Steve Christina made a short presentation. He indicated that they had nearly 5,000 calls for service last year. Previous financial difficulties were mostly behind it, though there were still some discussions yet to come with the Attorney General. He indicated that 80% of their work was with Medicare people and 20% was with those who have insurance. They cannot bill for much of their service if it does not involve transportation to a facility. They are working with Emergency Training Services to present a program on human trafficking May 10th. I think the manager noted that earlier, so that people can better recognize the danger signals here. Representative Wilson asked if non-billable costs have improved. Non-emergency standbys are now usually billed should they be requested. Representative Adams asked if there was any way a better billing situation could be realized, and Mr. Christina indicated that Senator Summers has been helpful at the state level, but that nothing concrete has been realized out of the legislature yet. A motion was made by Representative Hubbard for $52,976. This was seconded by Representative Burgos. A vote was unanimous in favor of this number. Account 10548, Mystic River Ambulance, was reviewed next with Chris Clarkin and their new president, Mike Gilman, present, who is also a town employee. Mr. Clarkin indicated that they were doing some renovations at their Sandy Hollow location and that they had 38 to 40 volunteers. They've taken delivery of a new ambulance costing $164,000 minus a new chassis, utilizing the old chassis, which saved a considerable amount. He indicated that half of their calls are in Groton and half in Stonington, and that they had fewer calls than the Groton ambulance by volume. He is asking both Stonington and Groton for $55,000. We did not know that evening what Stonington was going to provide. Representative Wilson asked how they handled the cuts from last year. Mr. Clarkin indicated that budgeting for 2 regular ambulances and 2 smaller Sprinter-type vehicles should be helpful. In addition, they were considering billing for previous non-billable events and were working on a process to perhaps gain more income from that. Representative Wilson was concerned about not fully funding ambulance services, and the chairman mentioned that the private-public aspects of both of these ambulance services was controversial and is one of the primary causes for not granting full funding. A motion was made by Chairman McDermott for $25,000. This was seconded by Representative Adams, and a vote in the affirmative was unanimous. Account for Emergency Communications, 1014. Joe Sastry presented his request for the budgeted amount. He mentioned a 4th quarter transfer had been necessary. The chairman asked how the town council approved number would impact his operation. Mr. Sastry said that he did not have an answer to that question right now. Perhaps he would not fill that open position. There are currently 12 dispatchers, whereas he had 13 a few months ago. The chairman asked what 9/11 enhancements meant on page 112. That is money from the state for multiple services we provide beyond Groton by us. Representative Parker asked if we derive any money from our tower facilities. The financing plan was then reviewed item by item. The tower revenue accounts are lease fees primarily from Verizon and AT&T, with some services provided to Fisher's Island. Mr. Sastry mentioned that in 13 years, this is the first time anybody had ever asked that question. Representative Wilson asked about North Stonington revenue, which amounts to 1,700 calls, or 3% of call volume. And would it cause the regional state $165,000 we received to go away because of staffing problems? Mr. Sastry said, yes, it probably would. The chairman commented that the $1,382,809 seemed reasonable considering budget constraints this year, Mr. Sastry said that they would make it work. Representative Wilson suggested that maybe another fourth quarter transfer might be necessary. He also noted they were happy with last year's controversial new desks that the RTM approved, and said that he had received 50% reimbursement from the state for that. Representative Parker moved a number of $1,382,809. This was seconded by Representative Wilson. The number was approved unanimously. A motion to adjourn was made by the chairman and seconded by Representative Hubbard. The meeting was adjourned at 8:20 p.m. Sincerely, Bruce McDermott, Public Safety Chairman. I'd like to move acceptance of the minutes.
Is that, Chairman McDermott, that's April 19th? Is that the date?
19th.
Okay. Motion is moved and seconded for approval of the April 19th, 2017 RTM Public Safety Committee meeting minutes. Is there any discussion on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, we'll vote on approval of the meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Representative Pascalini, any other abstentions? Just one? Okay.
For this account, 1024, I'd like to move a number of $6,688,864.
Motion has been moved and seconded for the amount of $6,688,864 for account 1024, Public Safety. Representative McDermott, can you remind us again what the rationale for your committee's vote was for this?
We felt that the police department had taken a bit of a hit the year before, and everything was going pretty well. We didn't want to disturb that particular number that the town council had come up with.
Additional discussion on this account. Representative Marley.
Thank you. I'd like to put a new number on the floor. $6,666,198. That would be a 3% cut to the committee and town council's number. My rationale behind this. Is there a question? My rationale behind this is.
I'm just seconding your numbers.
Oh, okay.
Seconded by Representative Wilson. Continue, Representative Marley.
Thank you. Like Representative Newsom said earlier today in the meeting, we've just found out we're looking at another $400,000 deficit from the state that we have to make up. You know, I understand, you know, in the 3 years that I've been a part of this, this body, every time a line item comes up, it's the most important line item that the RTM is voting on. Every single one. I understand that. Everybody has, you know, their favorite line item. Everything's important. Everything needs to be funded. But we're looking at a deficit, and we need to make that up. Everybody, you know, even though we've heard from the state, Malloy, that we're looking at a $14 million deficit, everybody's assuming, well, I can't say everybody, but everybody I've talked to is operating that we're only going to get a $5 million cut. That's dangerous. I haven't heard anything from anybody at the Capitol that it's anything less than $14 million. They're working very hard, doing their job, trying to get as much money back to Groton as possible, but we can't operate that. We're only going to get a $5 million cut. So we have to make up money somewhere. I think it's reasonable. It's a small amount. The 3% works out to about $200,000. I think it's a reasonable cut, which is why I proposed it.
Chief, would you care to introduce yourself for the record and comment on that?
Mr. Moderator. L.J. Fizzaro, the Chief of Police for the town. I realize and appreciate this has been a difficult year. And understanding that fact, I do think this body needs to know that we did a very deliberate action when we were putting together our budget to propose it to the town manager. We were faced with some critical decisions last year as a result of funding that was given to the police department, and certainly we understand that we're under some financial constraints today. But at the same time, I'd also remind this body that we did cut last year, but we also received, shortly after I became the chief of police, a significant interim cut last year during the process where my department was asked for a $250,000 cut during FYE 17. I believe that's, if you recall that, Mark, I think that was from a lack of funding from the, from the state.
We have been notified of a reduction from the state in around September of that year, and all town departments were asked to come back with some additional reductions.
So we have continually, as they say, done more with less, but at some point we have to realize we'll do less with less, and that's what we're trying to avoid right now. I appreciate the sentiments of the town council and everyone else as we've gone through this process, and certainly with Chairman McDermott, working with him and discussing this with the Public Safety Committee. I know we're looking at tough times. I just hope that we look at this in a more global perspective, and it's been a tough year for Groton, and not just the economic sense, but we've investigated a homicide down the street. We investigated since October 4 fatal accidents, multiple overdoses. We have seen an increase in sex crimes as well as human trafficking in this town here in Groton. There's some reasons for that. So certainly I also appreciate the fact that someone earlier tonight came up and discussed the Board of Education and safety, and certainly we want to enhance that, and we want to enhance safety here in the town of Groton as well.
Thank you, sir.
I
Representative Marley,
apologize.
you had an additional comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to make an amendment. I went to law school, not math school. My calculations are not correct. My actual number should be different from the one that I proposed. I apologize. Can I make an amendment? Thank you. It'd be $6,488,199. $8,199. That would be a 3% cut.
And Representative Wilson seconded. Representative Nugent.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Yeah, I can't support the cut. I support the 6688864. I think we have a very excellent police department. I know as a citizen, I'm happy with it. I had some issues in my neighborhood, and they increased patrols, which are, help prevent crime. I can't add to what the chief says, but, an opioid crisis and this new thing we heard about sex trafficking. I mean, if we're going to cut, and when I was reading the book, traffic enforcement is down, and I think that's important. We've gutted community policing. I mean, what next? We're going to cut education, we're going to cut police. Who's going to want to live here? And as far as the state, there have been no cuts yet, and both the Democratic and the Republican caucuses submitted budgets that restored most of the ECS cuts. Now, we know they're going to negotiate and they're going to be cuts, but I'm going to be an optimist and vote for the first figure. And if there are more cuts, as happened last year, there's a mechanism for making reductions. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Representative Nault.
Yeah, I'm going to support Representative Marley's number, not only for the reasons that he gave, which is the budget crisis that we're in right now, but also because this body and the town council cut 2.6% over last year to Groton City Police budget. And there's a difference between the town and the city police. The town's police's benefits are not included in this number, so their benefits remain untouched, whereas the city's benefits, police benefits, are included, so their benefits as well as their operational budgets was cut 2.6% of this body, which means that for an equal cut, you would have to cut the town police operational budget by more than that to compensate, because we're not touching the benefits with this vote. So for that reason, I support this number, and for the budget crisis reasons. And I'm not comfortable just assuming that there's not going to be any cut, or that there's only going to be a $200,000 or $1 million cut. I mean, if we get cut $5 million, I think it'll be a miracle.
Representative Massey.
Chief, just a couple of questions. The council number, would that, are you up to a full complement?
No, ma'am.
How many officers are you down?
As we speak today, we're down 4 plus 1 civilian.
Okay. It was, and correct me if I'm wrong, I seem to remember having read where last year, because of the cuts, you had to rearrange personal days off, vacations. There was an issue with having enough officers to cover a huge parade. So this impacts everybody. Like, people have to work overtime, they can't. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, that's accurate. And it also impacts the supervisory staff, which is of critical importance to me and the town for a lot of reasons, including supervision, liability, things of that nature.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Frickman.
Just had a quick question. In regards to what this cut looks like, what is the impact on proactive policing, as well as with the outreach for kids and the school resource officer?
Which cut?
The second one.
The second one?
Yeah.
We're talking about reducing the force. I think that's what we're looking at.
Does that include the school resource officer as well as?
We have a school resource officer right now that's been partially funded through the Board of Education, but in fact, what we're looking at, I'd have to go through the analysis of this, but it would be a reduction in force. We're not talking about not filling positions. We may be talking about losing officers.
Representative Kent.
Yes, I have a question for the chief. What is your total head count right now?
Right now, we've got 63. We have we have vacancies at the patrol level. Plus, I failed to mention, we do have 2 officers currently on extended military leave, so we're replacing them, but we're short lieutenant. I have a second lieutenant going, a detective, patrol officer, as well as a civilian office assistant.
So the total again is how much?
63.
Thank you.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Chief, you said that you're replacing the 2 officers that are on military leave?
No, we're not replacing them. They're on our staffing. They're part of that number. So in fact, we cannot replace them. They're
I understand that,
military leave.
because you did say that you were replacing them. That's why I was
When there's a
asking.
vacant, no, if they are assigned to the midnight shift and that officer obviously isn't there, then we have to replace that person. So meaning someone's going to work that on overtime when there's a shortage.
Filling their slots.
Correct.
Not their
We're not
position-
replacing
not their
them per se.
positions.
We're replacing the vacancy when we need to.
Thank you. The other question I have is, you said that you had 1 position right now that wasn't filled?
A civilian position, yes. We have a civilian position in our records division. Again, that's a critically important position for pistol permits, FOIA requests, issuing out other permits and licenses, and also responding to court requests. So that's a position that we haven't filled since last budget year. That was one of our budget mitigation strategies. Haven't been able to fill it because of this, and because of that, I have a supervisor doing double duty, really triple duty, to fill the positions where we have vacancies. Obviously, I'd prefer to fill that, but right now I haven't been able to do it.
Thank you.
Representative O'Brien.
You always take a deep breath when I want to stand up. I had 2 questions. One was, do you have any police that actually get out and walk around?
Well, we're all motor patrols right now. If you're asking if we have dedicated walking beats, we don't. Sometimes during the summer, we do have provisions to put walking beats in downtown Mystic. Again, that costs money, but we do encourage the officers to park and walk when they can. These are also the same officers that are responding to call for service, finishing their reports. So we used to have dedicated walking beats, but we don't currently have them anymore, with that exception of the downtown Mystic
Right.
patrol that we can employ during the summer months.
Well, I hope in the future, maybe, in the shopping centers and so forth, occasionally they can get out and walk around and introduce themselves and,
Absolutely.
just a bit of information. I believe it's your father that's the police chief in Norwich.
Recently retired police
Oh,
chief.
okay.
I guess he
Well,
had enough after 50 years. So
Just want to tell you that the policing they do up there in downtown Norwich, maybe it's because it's a different situation, they have to have police out and walking around, but when I'm showing properties up there, it's very helpful. They come in, they talk about the neighborhood, who's got what business, and when I talked to the police officer, he told me that was part of his duty. So I thought that was excellent.
they do, and they have their staffing is considerably higher as well.
Okay. Well, that becomes mute then. The other thing I was going to mention was that I was told that there was a verbal agreement that the town police would have a small cut, as the city did. And it was a gentleman's agreement.
I'm sorry, the agreement was what? I'm sorry.
That there would be a cut to both police departments, the town and the city. And the city did have a cut. And so consequently, I feel that we should have to do the same here. I understand your situation, and certainly I've been very pleased with, I had your services, much that I didn't want them, but I had them. And no, I didn't get in trouble. But but I think that there should be a small adjustment to this in fairness to the rest of the police departments in the town. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Can I comment on that?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
I understand what you're saying about the park and walk. We do try and encourage our officers to do that. As far as the fairness, I appreciate the sensitivities that come with that. This is probably a larger discussion, but I don't consider Groton City's budget when I put together ours. I consider our needs. I imagine Chief Davern does the same. Fairness, I guess, is a bit subjective. Again, I relate a couple of facts that happened last year. We sustained a cut that was much more significant than either of the other departments in town. We got a 4.9% cut, I believe, if my math is correct. I was a political science major in college, so I'll caveat it with that. I think there was 1.3% and 1.34 by my calculations, 4.68 for us, and a 2% cut for the other. I could be a little bit off, but I do recall there was a much greater cut to us last year, and that was coupled with already mid-year prior to that a $250,000 figure that we had to try and come up with in my department. So I would hope that would be considered as well. We all have duties to do. We're trying to do the best we can with what we've got. I think I would submit that all the police chiefs try to do that. But again, it's relative, and I just relayed some facts to you as well, where we've had some significant issues that we've dealt with here in the town, including homicides, which is a significant cost in resources, time, energy, overtime, fatal accidents, and certainly it's of critical importance, more so than anything to me, that our officers are operating as a safe environment as we can provide for them, that they have suitable backup and supervisory staff to assist them. So I respect what you say. I understand where you're coming from. I respectfully ask that you would take it in context, that there is certainly other mitigating factors, and I feel like we're almost competing between departments over the same dollar figures, and I don't think any of us want that.
Well, I think unfortunately that's probably the case. When I watched the council deliberations, they kept talking about parity, 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 and I should have looked it up, but I think it means fairness. Am I correct? And that word was used over and over and over again, and so I'd like to see that happen. I think we do have to be fair. So I appreciate your comments, though.
Thank you, Chief. Representative Marley?
Thank you. I do understand public safety is essential for any town, but during the Finance Committee, I received statistics that in the last 20 years, crime in the town of Groton has decreased 39%, but yet we have more personnel today. I'm hoping Representative McDermott can speak more on the information that you gave us during that meeting.
A couple of, I don't have those figures at hand, but I'm going back, and I've mentioned this before, I think, going back 20, 25 years when we had a good deal more crime, probably 50% more than we have now. We had like 37 patrolmen, 7 sergeants, as opposed to, I think we have 9 now and 41 or something like that. So we did have about the same number of total people back then with more crime anyway. It's quite a bit less now than it was. That's a phenomenon that's characterized the whole country, not just here in Groton. The city has had the same thing, not to the same degree that we have, but they have had that crime drop as well. So I think 30-some-odd% is correct as far, and I break it down into violent crime and property crime when I look at some of these numbers, and they all come from the FBI. The violent crime is much more important to me and probably to everybody else. Property crime can be a real nuisance, but it's come down quite a bit. Again, I don't have the numbers with me, but I think that our last numbers for violent crime, and those are the crimes that end up being reported to the FBI. They're going to be switching to another system in a few years, which actually covers all of the arrests. I think it was about 46, something like that, for violent crimes, which is considered to be murder, aggravated assault, robbery, rape.
Index crimes, is that what you're referring to?
Oh, okay, thanks. Okay, so in 1992, we had 65 officers. Number of officers and personnel we have today, I get 69 out of the budget book, but apparently she said it's less than that. Yeah, that's what I've got, 46, and that's probably from 2015 from the FBI for violent crimes. I don't have the 1992 number down here, but as I recall, it was considerably less, considerably more, I should say. Well, as I say, that's something that's been going on across the country for a long time. In fact, New York City has had the lowest number of crimes since they've been keeping records. So they're a pretty good source for data because they really manage that stuff pretty well. I don't know if that answers the question.
I would submit something we talked about in our discussions with the RTM Public Safety Committee, something called the Peelian Principles by Sir Robert Peel in the back a couple of centuries ago. And of the 9 Peelian Principles, the 9th one, which I think is germane to any police department, is the test of police efficiency is the absence of crime or disorder, not the visible evidence of police action in dealing with it. So I'd say that's a compliment to our force. I think that maybe is a compliment to the profession as a whole, that policing has changed the dynamics of what it was maybe in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Maybe it's also reflective of our education system and society as a whole. But certainly I would submit that our officers are better educated, better trained. With that is a time constraint, providing that training, getting them off to the academy, a longer duration. There were times in the past where officers, when they began, were issued a badge and a gun and said, go patrol. We don't do that anymore. There's almost a year's worth of training they undergo. There are requirements each year that they have to undergo training. There are obligations, there are court appearances. So, and then we also recognize the need for the officers to, have healthy habits. So we want to provide the officers with time off and vacations, and that requires the need to replace them as we go along. But I can give this to you after the meeting also, Chairman McDermott. I do have current crime data from the FBI that was released on May 1st. It does indicate a trend here. Last couple of years, I'm looking at just assault offenses. In 2014, 241, 2015, 239, 2016, 252. That's just one of the metrics on here, but this is
Sure.
something I was given earlier. But
Okay.
I can get a copy of that to you.
Very good.
Representative Hubbard.
Can't say it better than the chief, but we're very concerned about the children in this town, keeping schools open, and children are dying of overdoses. We have a really big problem, and that leads to other crimes. So I don't know about the FBI, Bruce, but people are hurting. And economic times, when they're bad, are not helping the situation.
No.
So we close schools. Where does that put our children? Balance it. I'm sorry, we have a town to run.
Any further discussion? Representative Nugent.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Some has been suggested that we should cut the town police budget because the city police budget was cut. I think instead of calling it fairness, I prefer to look at each budget individually and their needs. And just like I said with the libraries, that I didn't feel obligated to treat them equally because some libraries had another source of income. The city and Groton Long Point also have their own tax structure to partially support their police departments because that has been their choice. And we, although we're not obligated, we do kick in recognizing that they also pay town taxes. But I don't feel obligated in any way to say, well, we cut them, I got to cut them. I'm going to look at each department individually and their needs. And the Groton Police Department took a big hit last year, so I'm still supporting the original number. Thank you.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is actually for the town manager, and I think he's answered it before. There's a vehicle for adding money later, the same way there's a vehicle for taking money away later. Is that not correct?
If you have the money, you can add it later on. If you don't have the money, you can take it back and live with the adjustments. But there is a supplemental appropriation. I would not recommend that at this point, but I'm not really quite sure where you're going with the question, so maybe I should let you finish.
You answered the question. Now, my rationale behind asking that question is, if we go with the lower number and all the bad things that we're expecting to happen don't, we can go and we can supplement later, correct?
You could do that on any account.
Correct. That's what I was thinking. That's what I was getting to. And if we appropriate or authorize more and it doesn't come through, then there's methods for taking it away.
Correct.
So either way we go, I think there's a method for reaching the finish line. I'm not going to make my motion. I'll just sit down now. Thank you.
I'd like to recognize Councilor Morton.
Good evening. I'm Councilor Morton. I just wanted to make sure that the RTM is aware that the town manager cut the requested budget from the police department by $270,135. So that cut was already made. The council recognized that the department had also been hit with a large mid-year cut during the current fiscal year. So we felt that it was very important to preserve the budget as the town manager gave it to us. We also were aware that there were 4 positions that had been left unfilled. The previous year it had been 5, and now there were still 4 positions. And it is because of those 4 positions that we chose to cut the city police department. When we reviewed their budget, we asked them, you know, what their strength was. Were all the positions filled? And the answer was yes. And we said, well, we're looking at a budget that has 4 unfilled positions and the subsequent overtime increases. So in the interests of parity, we decided to eliminate 2 positions from their budget. We felt that was reasonable. Now, understanding that we only fund half of their budget, that equates to 1 full-time position. So we were being fair in the way we handled both departments. I would also point out that if you cut this budget any more than what the council approved, you're creating a situation where you're going to incur a big increase in overtime costs, because even if you lay off additional personnel, you still have to police the town, and you still have to provide all the services that you provide. So what's going to happen is the officers who are still working are going to be working a lot of overtime. So it's, in the end, it's counterproductive. You're getting less service at an increased cost. I also point out, as some of you noticed, that this eliminates dedicated community policing. The current budget, as the council passed it, eliminates community policing, and that's huge in a lot of areas in town, and that's been something we've been trying to get back to include in the budget. Unfortunately, those of us who were willing to give the police department more money weren't on the prevailing side, but I would really urge you not to pass a reduction of what we did. Thank you.
Is there any additional discussion on the first amended figure of $6,488,199 for account 1024 Public Safety? Representative Merritt.
I'm not voting on the second number because first of all, I'm not in line with consideration of parity. Never have been, never will. And secondly, as far as supplemental money goes, I want to get it done now. I don't want to go back over this again, and hopefully we have it, hopefully we might, and then find out we don't have it.
Is there any additional discussion on the first amended figure? Seeing none, we will take a roll call vote for account 1024 in the amount of $6,488,199.
Mr. Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Just for a point of clarification for me, as I understand it, when we talk about percentages and we're parity, as I see it, when we're cut a percentage, it's 100% of our budget. It's 100% of the funding that is allocated to us. But when other entities, other political subdivisions are cut, it's a cut of the percentage that's given to that department, not their whole budget. So 100%. So I think am I correct in my understanding of that?
Oh, no, I believe you're correct.
That's right.
When I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Adams?
No.
Bailey?
Yes.
Burrell?
No.
Bauer?
No.
Sorry, I just skipped one. Casper?
No.
Evans?
No.
Frickman?
No.
Gilly?
No.
Hubbard?
No.
Kent?
Yes.
Laughlin?
No.
Marley?
Yes.
Massett?
Yes.
McDermott?
Abstain.
Merritt?
No.
Nault?
Yes.
Nugent? No. Aubrey? Yes. Parker? Yes. Pasqualini? No. Powers? No. Quinn? Yes. Sleeker Hersant? No. Steinford?
No.
Swindell?
No.
Watrous?
No.
Wells?
No.
Wilson?
Yes.
Newsom?
No.
Nine in favor, 19 opposed, 1 abstention.
Motion fails 9 to 19 to 1. Is there any further discussion on the first figure of $6,688,864 for account 1024, public safety? Representative Nault.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to move a new number, $6,595,733.
Sorry, say that one more time.
595. 733. This is exactly a 1% cut over last year's authorized adjusted budget. And I think that, you know, as a body, we have a duty to look at the budget overall and make cuts wherever we can. And this is only a cut of $60-something thousand out of a almost $7 million budget. So I don't think it's that harsh of a cut.
Is there a second?
Second.
No, I had a second.
Oh, you already got a second. My apologies. Motion has been moved and seconded for the first amended figure of $6,595,733. Discussion on this amount. Representative Casper.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm a little baffled, though, at the logic of here's a number that's been cut again, and then been cut, and now it's like, well, we should be able to find another 1%. I just don't understand that logic, so I can't vote for that number.
Representative Bailey.
I feel in all fairness, what we're going to be dealing with, that we are trying to get somewhere where we can focus on, and it will go back and forth until we have that sweet spot. And, they got a saying in submarines, one boat, one crew, one screw. And we will have to find something to get right there. That's what's happening, and it's happening pretty much with every line item, everybody that comes in here. And it's not against anybody, it's just getting right to that focus point. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Representative Marley.
I appreciate Representative Nault's compromise of 1%. Like I said before, every line item is the most important line item in this budget, but we have to find a place to cut. I just want to point out to the body that this is actually, Representative Nault's number is only $66,000 less than last year's adjusted number. So it's not as drastic as everybody's making it out to be. It is a significant cut off of what the request was, but you got to look at the big picture. And last year, the adjusted number is only $66,000 higher than Representative Nault's proposed number. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Representative Nugent.
Well, I'm not a math major, but I have a calculator. I come up with the difference, 93,111. Between 6688864 and 6595733. Somebody could check my math.
66 off of last year's authorized. About 26K difference between last year's authorized and this year's authorized.
Well, I think we're talking about this year's budget. I mean, so this year's budget was put together for this year's needs, and so it's really a cut of 93,111, and that is, by my calculations, about 1.5 officer. And I don't think that's good. And as Town Councilor Morton said, we're just going to pay more in overtime, and I'd like to say a comment about overtime. Overtime means, because I've worked overtime, and you know, the first day it's great, got a lot done. Second day, well, we didn't get so much done. By the third day, you're tired. By the fourth day, you're making mistakes. Fortunately, I was not in public safety. But I don't think we want tired, burnt-out officers on the beat in Groton, so I'm sticking with my first number.
We
Thank
also
you.
have raises that have gone into effect since, I just want to point that out for contractually awarded raises.
Right, thank you.
Representative Parker.
Chief, can everybody hear me? Hi.
Hi, Juliet.
Hi. Can you tell us how many are at the academy and how many are graduating soon that'll be replacing anybody that's on the force now?
We have 3 at the academy right now.
And are they going to be filling previous spots?
That's part of that number I gave you. Those are spots that have already been vacated. We try to maintain some staffing levels, and as the town manager probably has discussed at other sessions, you know, there is certain attrition that happens during the year, so we stagger the start times when we can. We're also beholden to the availability of slots in the academy. It takes about a year. You know, we don't hire an officer and they go to work right away. It takes anywhere from 6 months to 3 to 6 months for the hiring process, plus another 6 months in the academy, plus roughly 3 or 4 months once they're out of the academy, the FTO program. So those are people we don't count as assets. We really count them as liabilities because we're not getting the full functionality out of that officer until they're fully trained. Does that answer your question?
For me, I'm just want them to, as clarification for the group. So the 3 that are in the academy are not the 4 positions you were talking about?
They are not. No, they're
Right.
not.
Thank you.
They're part of, were they not in the academy, it would be 3 additional losses of officers. So the ones that we have there, that's part of that's the total number, the number that I gave you before. Those 3 officers are part of that. They're not in addition. Did I clarify that? I hope.
Is there any further discussion on the first amended figure of $6,595,733? Seeing none, we will vote. Roll call, please.
Okay, when I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Adams?
No.
Bailey?
Yes.
Burrell?
No.
Bauer?
No.
Casper?
No.
Evans?
No.
Frickman?
No.
Gilly? Hubbard?
No.
Kent?
Yes.
Laughlin?
No.
Marley?
Yes.
Massett?
No.
McDermott?
Abstain.
Merritt?
No.
Nault?
Yes.
Nugent?
No.
Aubrey?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Pasqualini?
No.
Powers?
No.
Quinn?
Yes.
Sleeker Hersant?
Yes.
Steinford?
No.
Swindell?
Yes.
Watrous?
No.
Wells?
No.
Wilson?
Yes.
Newsom?
Yes.
Twelve in favor, 6 opposed, 1 abstention. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. 16, 1, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's right. favor, 16 opposed, 1 abstention.
The motion fails 12 to 16 to 1. We're back to the main motion of $6,688,864 for account 1024, public safety. Is there any further discussion on this number? Representative Sleeker Hassan.
Trying to get a little closer to where we'd like to be. I'd like to move a new number, and that's a 1% reduction of the town manager's number. It's $6,621,975.
Motion has been moved and seconded for $6,621,975 for account 1024. Is there any discussion on this figure? Seeing none, we will vote.
All right, when I say, call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Adams.
No.
Bailey.
Yes.
Burrell.
No.
Bauer.
No.
Casper.
No.
Evans.
Yes.
Frickman.
Yes.
Gilly.
Yes.
Hubbard.
No.
Kent.
Yes.
Laughlin.
No.
Marley.
Yes.
Massett.
Yes.
McDermott.
Yes.
I'm sorry. McDermott, you said yes? And so did Massett. Nault.
Yes. Excuse me, Merritt.
Oh, sorry. Merritt.
No.
Okay. Nugent.
No.
Aubrey.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Pasqualini. Powers.
No.
Quinn.
Yeah.
Sleeker Hersant.
Yes.
Steinford.
No.
Swindell.
Yes.
Watrous.
No.
Wells.
No.
Wilson.
Yes.
Newsom.
Yes.
Okay. 16 in favor, 13 opposed.
Any abstentions?
No, 16 and 13 is 29. 16 in favor.
Motion passes 15 to
Six-
13.
16.
16, 13, 0. Well, thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
It is now 12 minutes after 10. For our rules, I understand people are waiting, however, it's in our rules. So we are going to vote whether or not to continue. All those in favor of continuing, at least for another 20, 30 minutes or so. Representative Nugent? I'm sorry, can you please use the microphone? Microphone.
Oh, sorry. Getting late. So if we deferred these, where would they be put? Because you know why I'm asking this question. I don't want them, well, never mind.
I have no idea. Representative O'Brien?
If I could, again, before we vote, if we vote to adjourn, could the people that have patiently waited be put on the top of the list for our next meeting? Because they've been here twice.
It will be,
Can't do that?
it will be a consideration. I,
Thank you.
what's that? So I'm going to call for motion. All those who are willing to continue, we'll say another 15 minutes. Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Opposed, keep your hands up, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like 11. So the motion to stay passes 18 to 9.
18 to 11.
18 to 11.
You're going to have to stay after school one of these days.
But we'll see who leaves.
It wasn't me, it was probably gas. Not too much.
We have 22 members present. We still have a quorum.
Human Services.
Yeah.
They really pushed me out quick when they were just doing Human Services.
Yeah. I guess I would, the next account, I would say we would try to get through maybe a couple more accounts.
Human Services.
Human Services and Human Service Assistance Fund. We think that,
Right. What does that mean?
another 15 minutes. Let's push through this. Count 10, 51, Human Services, page 161 in your budget book. Chairman O'Brien, would you like to?
I'd like to put a number on the floor of $577,399.
Second.
What was the rationale for your committee?
Actually, we were very impressed with how much is done by a very little amount. And we were 7 in favor of this number.
Ms. Fondulis, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Marge Fondulis. I'm Director of Human Services for the town.
Can we get a second?
Yeah, we've got a
Okay.
second.
Motion's been moved and seconded for $577,399 for account 1051. Is there any discussion on this account? This is the town council.
There's no increase to the budget. It's really a no-brainer.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
22?
22 to 0 to 0.
Oh, 23? Oh, sorry, 23.
2300. Next account, 7320, Human Service Fit Assistance Fund on page 168.
put a number on the floor of $17,400.
Second.
This is on page 161, your big budget book. I mean, 168, I'm sorry. And what is the rationale for your committee's number, Chairman O'Brien?
This is really just, if I understand it correctly, a carryover of money that came from the Spicer Fund and one other. What the heck was it?
The Perkins Fund.
Thank you. At one time, I think this was a lot more money, and it's been depleted over the years, and this is to help people that are really destitute. And so what's remaining is $17,400.
Would you care to speak?
Just to remind the body that this is not coming from the general fund. This is special trust funds that we're drawing on. So it's not from the general fund.
Is there any further discussion on this account? Seeing none, we'll vote on the amount of $17,400 for account 7320. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously, 23-0. I guess next account is 10070. Do we have the representatives or anybody from those regional agency accounts? You see them?
Police, I know DNA is here and Pump Out Boat. And I made Ledge Light, Steve Mansfield is off in the corner.
Okay.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I don't, what agency are you from? Okay, great.
So we don't have anybody from 1007 that you see?
No, well,
They were here, right?
No, I don't believe they were here. They may have been at some of the committee meetings. I don't believe they were here.
Yeah.
We had some accounts we didn't have anybody there, so I'll
Right.
mention that.
Well, why don't we go work with the ones that, where we have people who are here. Account 10540, Ledge Light Health District.
No, it would be,
Ledge Light is here.
Account 540.
540?
Yep, which is on page 210 in your budget book.
Oh, I don't have that with me.
It's all part of the 1054 account. Health services, cultural agencies.
Yeah, I know, I'm looking for, oh, here's Ledge Light, thank you. Put on the floor a figure of $292,530.
Second.
We had a excellent presentation by the person that did come for the meeting, and everybody was very impressed with the amount of things that Ledge Light Health District is now doing. And so it was 7 in favor of moving this number.
Okay. And that was $292,530.
Correct.
So we have a figure on the floor. It's been moved and seconded for account 10540, Ledge Light Health District, in the amount of $292,530. Is there any discussion on this number? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously, 23-0. Next account, 10541, VNA School Health, on page 210 of your budget book.
Well, it's good to see your handsome face. Okay, put on the floor the number of $42,590.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded for $42,590 for account 1041. Chairman, what was the rationale for your committee moving this number?
Wait a minute, that's the wrong number. I'm sorry. I was looking at the next thing. Okay, there's a modification on the number, if I can explain. Okay, the number that the committee had been working with was 1,166,072.
Second.
But,
Easy.
there was a modification to that because we had asked the question of what would happen with Pleasant Valley closing. And they were kind enough to calculate the figures and come back and tell us that, in fact, the amount would be reduced by $93,503.42, which would have us actually vote. Can't do that?
No, it'll have to be an amendment to what your committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I guess the number that stays on the floor, they were trying to save us some money, is 1,166,072. What?
Now somebody can amend it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a second?
Thank you.
Yeah, Bailey.
Okay. Motion's been moved and seconded for $1,166,072 for account 10541. Is there any discussion on this? Representative Watchus.
I'd like to move the amended number that they came up with, 93,500, whoop.
No, no.
93,500,000.
No. I can give you the number if you'd like.
No, that's the reduction.
That's what
You
they're
gotta
going to take
subtract
away, the
that from-
93,000.
Oh, I got you.
Okay? The new number would, if I can help her?
Yep, it's
Okay, the new number would be 1,072,569.58.
okay. That's not.
1,072,000.
Put 570.
$1,072,569.58.
Say 570, please. Say
What's that?
570. We don't do cents.
$1,072,570. Did I get that right?
Gotcha.
Is there a second? Representative Gilly seconded. Motion's been moved and seconded for the amended figure of $1,072,572 for account 10541 VNA School Health. Would you folks care to introduce yourselves, please, for the record?
Ralph Heath, the CFO to VNA.
Leah Hendricks, Supervisor of the School Health Department from the VNA.
Is there any further discussion on this account before we vote? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? You're abstaining?
Okay.
Motion carries 22 to 0 to 1.
Again, we had a very nice presentation by the person that came to the meeting. She did an excellent job.
Next account, 10542 VNA Health Promo.
I'd like to put on the floor number $42,590.
Second.
Motion has been moved and seconded for $42,590. Chairman, what was the rationale for your committee's voting?
Again, we were impressed by the amount that they're doing with this amount. This is actually, you know, for other things like flu shots, general health, variety of community health functions. And it was a unanimous vote for the $42,590.
Is there any further discussion on this figure? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of $42,590 for account 10542 VNA Health Promo, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously, 23-0. All right, do we have anybody here from Housing Authority?
No,
Culture,
You don't need anybody.
service agencies, cultural agencies?
I believe the only folks that are here for the
Green.
I know you thought we'd never get to you guys.
I really appreciate you guys staying.
I was determined to squeeze you guys in tonight.
I thought it was.
Okay. I'd like to make the motion of $19,980.
Second. Sorry, can you say that again,
$19,980.
Motion's been moved and seconded for $19,980 for account 10547, marine sewage disposal. Sir, could I trouble you to introduce yourself?
Pete Chapel. We
Say-
run pump out boats.
Say it one more time.
Pete Chapel.
Go ahead. No, actually, Representative O'Brien, what was your committee's rationale for this figure?
Well, one of the things that was brought forth was the fact that at one time, we carried a much larger part of this bill than we do now. And this is a very reasonable amount for all that they do to keep our waters a lot more enjoyable. And and this is a very small portion of the total bill. So we were unanimous in our vote for it.
Okay. Sir, what territory do you cover overall?
We cover Thames River, Mystic River, and Fisher's Island.
Is there any additional questions? Representative Kent.
Yes, why isn't this a fee service? Why is the taxpayer pumping out other people's boats?
It's federal money.
Mr. Chappell, could I trouble you to use the mic, please?
Sorry. A portion of the funds that come from the state are federal money, and when the people buy fuel, marina fuel is a little bit more expensive because there's a different tax on it. There's an extra tax on it, which goes towards this type of stuff. Some of the fees from the licenses helps fund the pump out, and the state is kind of committed to keeping the waters clean, and by giving it a free service, if people had to pay, they probably wouldn't pay. They would probably discharge overboard.
So does the fuel fee, the taxes and the fuel, do we get any revenue from that? Or is this just one way out?
It's to keep your waters clean.
But that's not my question.
It's there's no revenues coming in. I mean, we get, it's for every dollar that comes in, we get $75 from the government to help fund the program.
I think voters should pay their own way.
Well, I mean, if I did some numbers and your marinas pay a large amount of taxes in the town. And with what the marinas that I could find online, because they go under different names, and just the real quick that I did, the marinas taxes pay, what we're asking for is less than 3% of what the marinas pay. Those are the numbers that I could find. That was 7 marinas. There's 18 marinas in the town of Groton. So if you did if you could find those numbers, if I could find those numbers, we would be paying, it would be less than 1% of the taxes that the marinas pay. Never mind all of the homeowners that live along the water.
If you're wealthy enough to own a boat with a head, you should be able to pay for the service. That's one. I'd like to move to number 0.
Is there a second? Representative Laughlin. Motion has been moved and seconded for the figure of 0. Further discussion on the amended figure of 0, Representative McDermott. Oh, actually, hang on a second. Mr. Manager, did you say you wanted?
Yeah, if I could, just to touch upon a few things, and that this question comes up, maybe not every year, but it does come up. And I think Pete, answered it, that, people being people, they're going to take the easy way out. And, whether or not they're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, we're all using that water to some degree, whether or not we have a boat or not. This is, in my mind, a very good deal for us. For our $19,000, we're getting, Pete, around 100 or 200,000. Okay, $168,000 worth of services. A lot of the boats, as I understand, I'm not a boater, this is being done at dockside and also at moorings and so forth. And, you know, I think the fear is that if we don't provide this, or if this service is not provided, people will do the wrong thing. And it probably won't impact them directly. It's going to impact everybody else that's using the water. There's a lot of things that people get advantages. I mean, we drive our cars. We don't, you know, on roads. The roads are maintained by government. We do pay taxes, but boaters pay taxes. And I think what Pete was trying to explain is that the program is heavily subsidized by the federal government. And they have a requirement that we can't, or Pete can't charge the boaters. It's not something, I mean, if we don't fund this, there's the potential that the program goes away. It's not a matter of you know, somebody else is going to make up the funding, because I believe there is a match required for the federal funding and so forth. I do want to remind some of you, because you know, some of you haven't been on the RTM a long time. This is a program that actually started with the town of Groton. We used to do this program through our Public Works Department many, many years ago. It didn't cover all the areas that Pete's operation is covering. It was pretty much the Mystic River. And you know, this was a program that we ultimately decided to outsource, and it blossomed. It grew significantly as a result of not only Pete, but the predecessor firm that was involved in this. And so I would strongly recommend that you go with the original number of $19,980.
Is there any additional discussion? Representative Nugent.
Yes, I would agree with that. I can tell you a story from this winter. We were on vacation down in the Keys, and we were taking a boat ride in this lovely inlet around Key Largo, and it was wildlife and manatees, and it was beautiful. So but our boat captain said, well, you should have been here, I don't know, it's 10 years, 15 years ago, because people, you know, had moorings, and I guess they live on their boats in the moorings, and don't pay any taxes, you know. I guess in Florida, if you live on a boat, you're classified as homeless. It's really funny. But anyway, they paid no taxes, and they dumped their sewer, and it was a big, smelly, polluted mess. So the county, just because they have county government in Florida, just decided, okay, we're going to do it. And now they, you know, now they have this beautiful, pristine water that tourists enjoy, and it brings in money. So, you know, human nature is unfortunate, but it is what it is, and it's a small price. And I feel better that knowing that the marinas pay taxes, so I'll vote for the original number. Thank you.
Is there any additional discussion on the figure of 0? Representative McDermott.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Boaters are like dog walkers. Most of them do this right thing, but there's a substantial number that don't, and it really just ruins the water. I'm a kayaker. I can remember what the water was like before this program started. You used to just have to be careful how you poked around through Mystic Harbor, and it's great now, and it's been that way. I live right in the middle of like 5 marinas, and it used to be abysmal, and this is a program I would not want to see go away.
Representative Casper.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I can vouch for the effectiveness of the program because I've done the intercoastal all the way from Florida. And the states that don't have this, it's really, you can tell. And I think all of New England and New York, all this, the Northeast area is pretty unanimous in this. It's free pump out. And I also take umbrage at, you know, being able to afford a boat with a head. To me, someone who's really rich has 2 heads. So I only have 1. And most of the boats can't pump overboard. Well, they can, but they're not.
It wouldn't be easy.
It's supposed to be locked.
Representative Bailey.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. The point of the matter is it's a criminal offense to release raw sewage. If it's released and nobody knows who done it, the town will get stuck with the cleanup. And yeah, you can pump sewage outbound at least 45 nautical miles from land, but inland waters, it's a criminal offense to release sewage. Seeing how it's mainly funded by the federal government, it's probably a good law enforcement thing to keep that release of sewage from ever happening in inbound waters. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Is there any further discussion on the First Amendment figure of 0? Seeing none, we will vote on the figure of 0 for account 10547. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion fails 22-1. Is there any abstentions, by the way? Sorry. 22-1 to 0.
122.
1-22-0.
Thank you.
We'll now vote on the main motion of $19,980 for account 10547. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. So,
Mr. Moderator, I just want to say thank you, and thank you for staying.
thank you for staying. So, we've gone past the 15 minutes I promised everybody, but per the rules. I don't know. We'll do it another night. No motion to adjourn, Representative Powers. That's how somebody got into trouble.
Recess. We're going to recess.
I'll entertain a motion to recess. All those in favor of recessing, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Abstentions? Thank you.